Next on our presentations, we have our ward member, actually. They call them wards at the East Bay Regional Parks District, but it's the representative that serves our district, and that's John Mercurio, who used to be a former planning commissioner, who was elected to the East Bay Parks District Board of Directors. And before we'll bring him up to make the presentation, I do want to note for the record that Vice Mayor Brisson has joined the City Council, and he is in attendance. Mr. Mercurio, the podium is yours, and I believe you have a PowerPoint for us this evening.
Yes, I do. So, Madam Mayor, council members and staff, John Mercurio, back in a different way. Yeah. East Bay Regional Park District Director for Ward 6. And I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes this evening to introduce myself to Concord residents and in my new role, and to give you an update on what's going on in the Park District and a little bit about some of the resources that are convenient for Concord residents here. But before I do all that, I just want to take a minute to thank the City of Concord, this council, and prior councils for giving me many opportunities over 25 plus years to serve on more than a handful of boards and commissions and to gain some experience that's really coming in very, very handy for me now, very useful. And of course, along the way, I got to meet so many committee members and commissioners who I'm still in contact with, and that's been really great too. And who knows how many staff members. I mean, going back that far, many of them have already retired. So anyway, it was a really great place to kind of get going on public service. So just the basic stuff here. Park District was founded in 1934. Basically, we always say in the depths of the Great Depression. How did that happen? Well, see if this story sounds familiar. Development was about to happen on the hills above Berkeley and Oakland. And in order to preserve that land, some of the movers and shakers in Oakland and Berkeley in that area got together and pushed this idea, and the voters approved it, and they have voted to tax themselves to start this district. So that's what happened in 1934. We're going to have our 90th anniversary next year, so there'll be a party. Don't worry. Because park districts know how to have parties. I know that. 73 regional parks now, 126,000 acres, I think, is what we are. All those miles of trails and 200 miles of regional trails to basically connect them. That's the whole concept between regional trails, is to connect them, but they're also transportation. You look at the Iron Horse Trail and the Canal Trail, they are very much transportation elements in their own right. 55 miles of shoreline from the Santa Clara County line all the way around to Oakley, and many hundreds of millions of dollars of economic benefit, and through all that, we managed to have a pretty good fiscal situation. We have sometimes we find we have dueling goals. One is preservation and one is access, but I think we managed to do a pretty good job of getting those together. So the two things we focus on are balancing public access and recreation with environmental stewardship, and balancing the needs of different user groups. So there we are. All the dark green is East Bay Regional Parks. In the middle there, that light green area is Mount Diablo, a giant entity unto itself. But we border on them a lot, and we try to connect with them as much as we can. And again, many of those parks are connected with regional trails. A little more close to home now. The dark green is my ward, which stretches from Briones all the way to Discovery Bay. 400,000 people live there, and all those parks. I'm not going to go through and list all those parks, but All those parks are in it. I'm very lucky to represent a group, an area that has so many great parks that are very convenient for Concord residents, and we should be thankful to have all those opportunities and not be stuck going to this. Some people get stuck going to the same park every time, and they like that, but I like the variety that we have here. So I'm going to talk about a few special situations we have going on. Thurgood Marshall, the Briones, the former Burrell property down in Danville, and then the concept of trails are for everyone, and what we're doing about wildfire safety. But let's get right to the big one, right in our town here. Concord's finally going to get a regional park. Thurgood Marshall Regional Park, home of the Port Chicago 50, honors the history and deadly Port Chicago explosion and the role that Thurgood Marshall played with those folks. So in 2022, the Park District officially received ownership of over 2,200 acres of land. That's the land up on the hills there. The first general public access will come with the opening of the new Bailey Road staging area. I'm sure you're familiar with that. In 2024 or 2025. If I had to put money on it, I'd put it on the later date. But, you know, we're trying. We really want to get that open, and we know that the folks who drive by there all the time and know that that's coming really want to get out there. And the image on the lower part of there is a nice expansive view from the park looking down into the community. The Bailey Road staging area will have universally accessible trails, picnic tables, shade structures, restrooms, drinking fountains, picnic tables, and interpretive signage explaining natural history, the Native American history, and the later history will be there. So it's like a little pre-version of the visitor center that'll come later on. Assemblymember Grayson secured $3 million for us to do that work. And also, Congressman Mark DeSaulnier got us $3 million for the Visitor Center, which is shown in the middle photo there at the top. That's a rendering of what it could look like. I think I'd like to just have the council think about this for a second. That's basically going to be a national park in the city of Concord, because it's going to be jointly operated by the Park District and the National Park Service, so they can interpret. There's 4 national park properties in Contra Costa County. I think they're all going to be, but mainly the Port Chicago disaster and the civil rights activities that go along with that. So special events will continue to be held outside of that until we get it built, but it's going to take quite a number of years, I think, before we put the funding together and get a plan and open that up. But it's going to be, I think, a real community asset. Next is the Briones pilot project, which is a way to kind of deal with some of the user conflicts that have been going on in the parks. And Briones was probably the biggest situation that we had out there. So in April of this year, the Park District launched a temporary 2-year pilot project at Briones to test a variety of trail management strategies, and the project is limited to a specific zone up in the northeast corner of the park, just that one area. And some of the strategies that we're looking at there include odd-even alternating trail access on weekend days for bike and equestrian users. Hikers will have access on all days, but it's going to alternate between bikes and horses, so there's less conflict. And then there'll be 3 new trails, pilot project trails, designed with bike-only features, downhill only, and we're going to take a look and see how that works out. Those will not be for hikers. You don't want to walk when those guys are coming down those trails. You don't want to be there. And then we're going to be doing, I'll get into this a little bit more on the next slide, but restoration of some of the illegally built bootleg trails. Bootleg trails are trails that are not sanctioned. So here's some of the work that's been going on there to, restore. We call that restoration. You might call it erasing them, to restore the land back to the way it was. These trails frequently were built at night, illegally, and they were not laid out in a sustainable manner, and they were ruining habitat, and so we're going to try to restore the area to the way it was and have a better, less impact on the flora and fauna. This is an interesting project. This is down in Danville on the Danville-San Ramon border. The Burrell property was given to us in a will, and it's a walnut orchard. And this is really kind of close for me because I grew up in Concord at the time when there still were walnut orchards here. And so we're going to interpret there when we get it open, when we get it cleaned up, the whole walnut industry and how they were grown, how they were processed. And there's some really great historic elements on that property. I've seen it a few times, and that's going to be really great. So, and that's an interesting thing too, because the district on the northern part of this parcel, next to the existing development, sold to a developer a strip of land, and there's several hundred units that will go in there. The proceeds from that sale are going to develop the park. So it's, there's still going to be plenty of walnut orchard there, but it's kind of like Ardenwood, it's a farm kind of thing, but they're going to actually grow walnuts, but it's also going to interpret as well. Trails are for everyone. 25 million visits annually, 1,300 miles of trails. There's something for everybody in the Park District. We have some tips there that you can see that we like people to remember as they're out on the trail. Hikers, bikers, and equestrians all have a responsibility, to interact with everybody else. And we have dog rules too, so, read the signs. There's things you can do, things that you can't do in certain places, and don't just leave the bag on the side, okay? So the Park District, we have a very long urban wildland interface along the Berkeley Hills between all the way from El Cerrito down to Castro Valley and down there. And so we have a big responsibility there, our property borders, to reduce the fire danger as much as we can. So we have this year-round effort where our fire crews go out and other crews go out and thin the forest and make it so it's not so much of a threat. We use cattle, goats, and sheep grazing. We do have a full-time professional fire department and on-call firefighters that are other employees in the park. So if a fire starts, we can call a pretty good crew. And then, of course, there's all the mutual aid agreements that we have with CAL FIRE and all the local agencies, fire agencies. The interesting device there on the right, that yellow thing, looks like a giant dumpster, but it's called the carbonator. I want to speak briefly about that. It has nothing to do with soda. It's a way to deal with all the trees and all the waste that we cut out of all the eucalyptus that we thin instead of hauling it away or just burning it in a fire. That's not very sustainable. It's not environmentally cool to do. So this device here, and it's you can't really see how big it is. It should have been a person in that picture. It's a big thing, and it uses high heat, and it carbonizes the wood down into like black. They look like charcoal briquettes, really, but they have no smell. I have some at home at my house. And then that stuff can be used agriculturally or any other type of uses. But the important thing is we're not burning fossil fuels to haul it off somewhere else. It's going to be used somewhere around in our parks. And stay tuned for that, because this is cutting edge stuff. It's hardly done anywhere else. We find that people like to get involved in the things that we do, and there are quite a wide variety of ways that you can become involved, and I just want to kind of throw it out there that you can do park and shoreline cleanups, habitat restoration, invasive plant removal, trail maintenance projects. That was my gateway drug. I got caught into trail maintenance many years ago, and then I never looked back after that. You can be a docent in a visitor center. You can be an ambassador, staffing a table at a community event. You can be on the volunteer trail safety patrol, wildlife volunteer programs. We have a botanic garden, which I didn't even know about until I got involved here. It's in Tilden. It represents all the life zones of California. It's an amazing place, and you can get involved there and be a docent there. And last but not least, we have an archive. So we have historic archives documenting the history of the district and the history of parks in the area, and you can be a docent down there. So we have all that, but wait, there's more. There's the Regional Parks Foundation. You see the logo there on the right. They exist solely to provide funding and help to us in our mission. So they assist with fundraising and in projects, programs, land acquisition, all that. You can become a member of the foundation, and if you do, there are definitely good benefits because you get free park access, free parking, free swimming, and some other things too. So I encourage everybody to get in there and take a look at the regionalparksfoundation.org. So I hope to come back and do this on a regular basis. This is a kind of a hurry up thing here. I wanted to mainly do my initial introduction to folks. But I also want you to know that, you know, I've lived in Concord for 60 years, and I've been thinking about this stuff for a lot of that time, probably the last 35 years. And I have a few ideas on things that the Park District could be doing to provide more opportunities for Concord residents and the residents in the area. These ideas are kind of like in the early stages of formulation in my mind and trying to get them out to the other directors and the district staff. But it's kind of about what I'm really looking to do. I'm really into connections, and I think about connections as between people, between agencies, between communities, and between the parks themselves. So that's kind of what I want to do. So two projects that I'm kind of looking at here now that one is an established project already, and that is completing the Iron Horse Trail all the way up to the Benicia Bridge. If we do that, it creates a tremendously long network of trails and gives folks from here a way to get up into Solano County or over to Martinez or whatever, and vice versa, them coming down to us. So that's a really, really important priority, and I'm really starting to beat the drum on moving forward. We've done planning on it. We need to get into design, so I really want that to happen. Another project that I'm really interested in, and this is one I've been thinking about even longer, was to connect Concord with Mount Diablo State Park with a dedicated trail. And we actually have that trail in our master plan, but it's never been in the district's master plan. It's never been really pursued, but there was never a director from Concord. So, you know, here we go. Let's do it. It'd be really great to be able to have a way for Concord residents to, you know, get up into Mount Diablo on their bike or hiking or whatever on their horse, and it will be convenient for them. So it does say questions there. I mean it. So if you have any questions, thank you so much. And I just also want to note that Councilmember Obringer sits on the Park Advisory Committee for the Park District, and you're lucky to have her there because she's another conduit of information for what's going on with the Park District. And, you know, I really look forward to working with staff and you folks, especially on the Thurgood Marshall Home of the Port Chicago 50 project.
Thank you very much, Director Mercurio. We do have some questions. Councilmember Obringer first, and then Vice Mayor Brisson.
Thank you. So first of all, I appreciate that acknowledgement. It's a real privilege to serve on the Park Advisory Committee and represent the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference. And I'm very delighted that We have a Concord-based representative now representing our ward. So, and having served with you for many years on the Planning Commission, I know that this is really your area of passion and really understanding the trail system and what the needs are for the park. So we are very fortunate to have you representing us now, Director Mercurio. I just wanted to ask, I always get questions from people about how can they go out and tour the section south of Bailey Road that is occasionally open in the Thurgood Marshall Regional Park. Is there a place, I know that every once in a while it pops up the opportunity to do a tour.
Yes.
And as part of that, are you going to be doing any kind of tours yourself? As I know other elected officials, our assembly member, and I think our congressmen occasionally lead tours out there as well.
Well, you know, whenever there is one of those, I try to be there. That's not always possible for one reason or another. But, you know, if folks that are interested in going out there on a tour need to go check periodically at the Park District's website. I think it's probably under events, I would guess. You know, they will happen. I might also add, it's not in my ward, but it butts up against it. There's a huge land-banked property behind Clayton called Clayton Ranch. It's not open yet, but we're going to have some opportunities to go take a look at that too. I think there's one coming up in September, Clayton Ranch. That's the current name of it anyway. And you know, again, it's not my ward, but it's in the district, and it's a really great asset for Concord and Clayton. And I've been trying to encourage the staff to get that open sooner rather than later. It's a great property.
Thank you. And then one other question. I know about this serving on the Park Advisory Committee. I didn't hear you mention it tonight, but maybe in a future presentation you could share with us more about the Park District and its role in the 30 by 30 initiative. I know it's a global initiative. It's a statewide initiative. The Park District's very involved to preserve.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you could just share a little bit about that, please.
Yes, we have one of our top management, Dr. Ana Alvarez, is on the state committee that the governor, I guess, created that committee to promote that whole initiative. And so we are very much a part of that, and it motivates, well, you know, I'm not sure if we need extra motivation, but we now have extra motivation to go out there and really do some preservation work. And so the 30 by 30 initiative is a great way, and it's a way to publicize the need to protect habitat.
And that's also trying to build up climate resiliency as well, correct? So that's part of the role.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you a little bit about some improvements within existing Concord, and look forward to working with you on those. Thank you.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, John. It's always good to see you back again. We've had many conversations about the trails over the past years. We had discussed at one point, one of the issues that we have here in Concord is trying to find a place for a transitional encampment organized by a nonprofit for our homeless. Is it possible that within the Park District, of the thousands of acres that you have, that there would be something where you can carve out an acre for us?
Yes, I do recall we've had that conversation.
I didn't want to hold you to it.
I think it's certainly worth looking into a little bit more. So we would have to get together and talk about that again with some staff, I guess.
I would like to follow up in 2 weeks, maybe, and maybe we can compare notes. You have to talk to your staff. The second question is, again, in regard to our unsheltered, that occasionally do camp out in the Park District. What is the policy now of the Park District in that regard? And if you do have a movement, eviction type thing, where do you bring them?
I'm not familiar with that process. I haven't met with the Contra Costa Trail Maintenance Group yet. I've got a lot of people to meet, but I will be, and I'm interested in finding out the answer to that question myself. What is the process that they go through
It would be, again, something I would like to follow up on sooner, because we are getting complaints along the Iron Horse Trail and elsewhere of encampments. And I would like to know how you guys deal with Martin versus Boise and what the actual actions are, so that we can coordinate properly.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing it up because now I'll be educated about it as well.
Okay,
It needs
thank
to
you.
be, it needs to be addressed, and I appreciate, taking a look at it myself.
Councilmember Nakamura.
Hello, Director Mercurio. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the Iron Horse Trail. You said that we're looking forward to connecting it to Benicia. Does that mean it'll connect to the Bay Trail and all the 9
Yes.
counties?
Absolutely, yes.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
That's what,
They-
500 miles?
Not just, 500 miles, the Bay Trail and the Ridge Trail are coincident across the bridge, across the Benicia Bridge and through Martinez. So it's a really critical link, and it goes through a really interesting area that's had some, the county flood control has done some wonderful work out there on the lower Walnut Creek Channel. And and it's not really accessible now, but when the Iron Horse Trail is built through there will be some wonderful interpretive, and bird watching and all kinds of things that could be done there from the trail. And there's going to be a big old bridge over the BNSF Railroad that's going to be like 25 feet tall. And so what a wonderful view you'll get from up there, because they don't let you cross it at grade anymore. You got to build bridges over. And so it makes it a very expensive project. Yeah.
Great, thank you. The other question I have is about Brioni's, the pilot program that you're doing there. How is enforcement handled with regards to the interaction of like bicyclists and pedestrians and horses,
Right.
equestrians?
So it's that part of it is still, I'm not sure that's really gotten off the ground too much yet, just sort of getting it started and getting people used to the whole idea. And I believe I expect that we'll have a presentation from the police department about what they, in fact, I expect there to be something like that, to explain to us exactly what all the different steps are. And I'm sure it's going to be kind of a progressive penalty type of thing, warnings and that sort of thing. But it's going to be very difficult it's not, I'm not going to say it's easy, it's not. But we've got a lot of education among the peer group there. And they're doing a lot of that themselves, because they've been given a really great opportunity by having some trails dedicated just for their use, and they don't want to lose that, and they want it to replicate in other parks. And so I've met with some of those folks, and they're pretty serious about, getting the outlying behaviors kind of roped in.
Well, that's good, some self-policing.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to be that, I think. Yeah,
Are there rangers out there?
yeah, all of our parks
Have rangers.
yeah.
And do the rangers have citation ability?
Well, we have different kind of rangers. Our rangers aren't like a national park ranger or a state park ranger. They're more like maintenance people, so they can, report things and such. But it would have to be the police, I guess, that would be doing that enforcement.
Okay. And then one other question about the Thurgood Marshall home of the Port Chicago 50. A neighborhood access for any of the areas that are around the perimeter. Do we anticipate that that'll be happening?
So are you speaking about the whole park? I mean, yeah.
And yes,
There-
I know
there are-
there's
there
a
are-
lot
there
of
are-
people that want to enjoy that
Yes,
space.
there are, and I agree with them, and it needs to happen. It's just a matter of, when can we implement that? But yes, there are a number of opportunities that have been identified for potential, access, and so I think we're still looking at those. But certainly, I'm very much interested in getting those done, again, sooner rather than later.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
All right, thank you.